Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I got a special edition of Holden's 11 tonight with my guest, author and creator, Jessica Maison. Jessica, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to do this one.
Yeah, this is a good one, man. So our topic tonight, we're going to talk about the top 11 scariest robots. I've been saving this topic for somebody that could really dive into it, and immediately your name was the one.
Yay. And it's true. I do love robots, especially scary ones.
Well, without further delay, let's jump right in, right?
Okay.
This is a movie from 1973, Westworld. Our number 11 is The Gunslinger. Do you remember this guy?
Oh, I definitely remember him because when the TV show came out, I rewatched it. So yeah, I mean, there's just something really cool about the Westworld world, the whole concept, and like trying to figure out who the robot is and who the robots aren't, and yeah, just the whole world. So I'm a big
By
fan.
the way, this whole movie series and even the new one are filled with so many scary robots. It could be a perfect category all by itself. The one that I'm going to show to the viewers, this is the image of Yul Brynner as the classic gunslinger, and he was the scary one and perfectly cast for the time because he was one of the Magnificent Seven. So
he was one of the Magnificent.
Yeah, he was a total Western dude. And there was, am I correct? There was even a couple of scenes where he had his face off, right?
Yeah, his face, so you could I mean, that's like classic scary robot. You got to take part of it off, or
right.
it's not.
You almost feel cheated if he doesn't do that.
Yeah, if you don't get to see inside, you're upset. That's
Did you like the newer series?
Well, I really did. I mean, for me, the first couple seasons anyway. I loved the first season was just phenomenal. I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, it was interesting to watch the main character, and I'm going to forget her name, like grow throughout the series, and like the conflict between her and Ed Harris, which I think is the gunslinger from the old 1970s. Ed Harris plays him, right? In the
I think so,
TV show. Yeah.
I love Ed Harris, by the way.
Yeah, I do. I love Ed Harris does a phenomenal job being completely unhinged. And and I really I like the movie. I love the series. And my good friend is the big location manager on Westworld, the TV show. So I got to hear a lot about it. So so that was, I mean, because it's beautiful and it's in a lot of cool places. So yeah,
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
like a brush with greatness.
Brushers, yeah, I say that all the time. She's a great location manager. Yeah.
That's cool.
Whenever I watch something she's been, I'm like, Mandy found that spot.
Well, we always say, man, to anybody that's watching the show, we always recommend that you go back and check out these old movies because, by the way, they've been done so well in recent years in many cases and sort of so lovingly by these new writers and directors. When you go back and you see the original versions, they almost seem kind of sort of rough, right? Sort of like a rough hewn kind of charm to them. But that's the part that's beautiful because they were new. And like, the idea of Yul Brynner with his face off in a Western sci-fi movie, like looking back on it's a stroke of genius.
Yeah, for sure. And then they went to different worlds, right? So like,
right. There was a Roman world, there was a West world.
And then there was a samurai world too,
right.
Wasn't there? That's in the movie, right? I make that up? Yeah.
Well, I remember seeing it when I was a kid, and I don't necessarily remember. It was 4 worlds though, or maybe 5.
There might have been 4 worlds because, like in the TV show, and I definitely did rewatch it, like not recently, but right around when the series started, and I do think there's the Western world, the samurai world, the Roman world, and then there's another world. You're right. There's another world. What is it?
Viewers, drop it in the comments. I don't remember.
Yes, help us out.
So, I'm fascinated by robots, and I always have been, and that's reflected actually in both of our writings. But, we were making the rules here. Some of the robots on our list weren't too scary. But this next one, I think, is genuinely scary. This is number 10. That's Ed 209 from RoboCop. And just a quick reminder, he was the robot that sort of malfunctions in the boardroom right away, and he thinks everyone's criminals, and he opens fire in the boardroom.
And that's the scariest part.
Yeah, it's probably the scariest part.
Yeah, that is the scariest part when you realize that the technology can just flip on you, especially once yeah, I am a fan of RoboCop because the whole concept of giving over your policing to artificial intelligence, like,
Hmm.
to a very, like, strict set of, like, code and guidelines is very terrifying in general,
Yeah,
and
it
then
plays a little different right now, doesn't it?
yeah, it definitely plays a little bit
Yeah,
different. It was creepy back then, and then now it's, like,
right.
you would really hate it, especially when you
You,
start talking about getting they have those robot dogs that they're training to sniff
yeah.
for drugs and go into dangerous places, and you're like, "But
Well,
is that all
and
those robot dogs are gonna do?" Yeah.
listen, what does the movie RoboCop teach us is that the corrupt corporations,
Mhm.
I'll
They'll
let
do
the
what
viewers figure the rest out.
yeah, you don't wanna spoil RoboCop? Well, someone might not lots of people probably haven't seen it, actually.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah,
guess it's over its
it's a
statute of
classic.
limitations. But you know, shocker, it turns out the corporations are corrupt and
Oh, I
they're all
know.
terrible.
They're trying to run the world.
So you had kind of mentioned AI, and that's going to
Mhm.
crop up on our list a couple of times here.
Yeah.
Okay. When we move to our number 9, this would have been another radical film for its time. This is 2001, A Space
Yeah.
Odyssey, and he's
Yeah.
HAL 9000. That's from 1968. Like I say, back then it seemed almost like a charming component to the story, right? But it's a little bit, it plays different now.
It plays more realistic now. I still think I was very scared of Hale. Like, just the
Right.
calm way in which,
His
they
monotone voice.
the monotone voice and just delivering, like, very extreme news or betrayals in, like, a very calm voice was just chilling for me, and just I think at that time, I mean, I was reading sci-fi, I can't even remember how old I was when I first watched that movie, but I was very fascinated by Hale. I think that might have been one of my first movies that had a AI in it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it
I
was.
think you might be
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah. For me
it's
anyways.
it's a little bit of a dense movie too, right? Like
Yeah.
especially for somebody that's seen it the first time. It's a Kubrick movie and
Mhm.
he's got the prehistoric beginning and stuff, but really what
Yeah.
it's about this mankind's evolution and how
Yes.
it's basically his own intelligence. It's not even really about artificial intelligence. But the best one of the best scenes to me is like you say, the monotone way that he says, remember the astronaut's outside and he's gonna run out
Yeah,
of there and
yeah.
let me in, Hal. I can't
No.
do that, Dave.
I know, and you're
It's a
just like,
great line.
It's so great. It's so great, and that was the line I was kinda referring to, like,
Yeah, yeah. And
the
the it's something that's held up pretty well too when you consider that
and
movie's 60 years old all but.
and it's yeah, and it's very rational, and I think it's because it's not Hale's never mean-spirited. I don't remember Hale being mean-spirited,
Right,
just
it's just
very
on
matter
off.
of
It's
fact.
very
It's
yeah.
yeah, and I
Yeah,
think
that's
that's
a
why
good way to put it.
that line is so powerful because there's, like, it's not about emotion. He might even feel bad, kind of. Like, it seems
Yeah.
like, he doesn't really want him to be out in space, but yeah,
And
and
how
so
does he
it's
get back in? He causes a leak or something at the
yeah,
airlock.
he causes something yeah, it's the airlock, and then he
Yeah,
has to yeah,
he has to
so
open the door.
mhm,
And
but
by the way, there's another great scene where he's at the end when he like disassembles Hal and he's going
yeah.
back to his basic memory and he's like reciting nursery rhymes. Remember that? Okay, moving on to our number 8. You had mentioned actually the influence of AI on a couple of these characters. And for that reason, this character almost did not make the list. But we got him
Mhm.
as sort of a last minute substitution. And I think it's a good choice. That's number 8 from The Matrix, 1999, Agent Smith. So tell me why you chose him initially.
Well, Agent Smith is one of my all-time favorite characters in any movie. He's to me is the perfect villain, the perfect foil to Neo, and I just love like I'm a huge Neuromancer cyberpunk fan, and
Oh,
so
nice.
I've always really liked the computer program, the sentient program coming to life and causing havoc in a world. And so when Matrix came out, I it was like a dream come true for me because there had been a few cyberpunk kind of movies, but there just hadn't really been a super successful one.
Until then, nobody had really nailed the aesthetic.
No, it was really hard, and it's a hard aesthetic to nail, and it's hard to cross. And there was just the way the Matrix did it was just really creative, really amazing. And Agent Smith, when he entered that movie,
Yeah.
it was just
Perfect villain.
great. And
Perfect
he's
villain.
so scary because they're so powerful and they're so ruthless, and
Right.
and he hates humans, like, and that I like, because so often the robot doesn't hate humans. The robot wants to be human. The
Yeah.
robot's jealous of humans. The robot's trying to understand humans, and Agent Smith is just disgusted
Yeah.
by us.
Yeah.
And I and the and he's an amazing actor, and of course, it was just great. Yeah, I'm a
Yeah,
big
he's
fan,
that's
obviously.
Hugo Weaving. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I thought it was a great pick, Jessica. Thanks for choosing it.
Mhm.
And I will say also one of my favorite parts in Matrix movies. There's dozens of favorite
Yeah,
parts,
for sure.
but the fight with multiple agents, multiple
Yes.
agent Smiths. Remember, he
Yes.
like keeps more, and
Yeah.
soon he's
You're
fighting just
just
hundreds of
like
agents. It's really cool, man. And you know, you think back on those movies. You know, I remind you that's 1999, so that's
Mhm.
24 years ago. Again, a movie that's really held up.
Yeah, I remember
With the
going to that
exception of,
movie.
I get that the last couple weren't too popular, and
Oh,
that's
I still liked them, but yeah, they weren't the first one.
yeah.
They
The
were
first one was the
yeah.
one that was groundbreaking, and in some
Yeah.
cases they say that it was the movie that manufacturers say it with a little bit of a joke. It's the movie that put a DVD player in every American home. Because if you remember, DVDs were kind of new, and the
Yeah.
one that launched was The Matrix. And people are like, "What? You can get DVD on? You can watch The Matrix on DVD?" And
Yeah,
they all
and
bought one. And
everyone
I remember
yeah,
I
we all
bought
had to
one.
watch it.
I bought
Yeah.
one.
Well, and it was funny because I went and watched The Matrix with 2 people who were under the influence of something, and I was not, and they hated it, and I was like, "That was the most mind-blowing movie I've ever watched," and they were like, I don't know, they were in a different universe and couldn't, like, enjoy it, and I still
Yeah.
remember that, and I was like, you need to go watch it again."
Well, hey,
He's like,
and look, you and
"Yeah,
I know it well. Sci-fi is not for everybody.
yeah, no," but yeah, that is true, it is not for everybody,
Yeah,
but
there's
The
some people that
Matrix,
just they
I
don't
feel like
click.
yeah, and you know what's crazy is The Matrix has so many weapons and so much violence in it, and I wonder, well, I guess a lot of movies do, but it just the violence in The Matrix is so interesting because it they're able to inflict so much, um they shoot each other so much because they're in their real bodies, and so
Mhm.
that was also very startling when I watched The Matrix, which is also maybe
Yeah,
why the
remember
agents
there's
were
a
so
scene where he goes to
scary.
get the guns and like
Yeah,
hundreds of corridors
they
of
just are
guns come
coming
in.
out, right? And I think that's also why the Agent Smith was so scary, because the guns weren't even scary, and
Right.
they should be, and then you've got this guy just showing up, and they're all terrified, and yeah, for good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, terrific choice, man. I'm glad you
Yeah.
brought that one up. Now, this next one, and this is a little bit of a split we have going on here because
Mhm.
I think you put it the best way backstage when you said, like, look, some of the robots are not necessarily scary, but they're
Yeah.
so iconic that you almost feel cheated if they weren't on the list. So one of
Yeah.
those, of course, is Gort from The Day the Earth Stood Still. It's
Mhm.
1951. Now, he is there to basically destroy the Earth, and I get that. But, you know, we both kind of objected, right? Like, he's not as scary.
Well, what's scary about that movie is us.
Right, right, right.
And so he's like mirroring it to us, and he's our consequence. I guess Gore is kind of scary because I mean, I love The Day the Earth Stood Still. It's one of my all-time favorite
Me
movies.
too. It's
But
me too. Yeah, I'm right there
yeah.
with you.
But he's bringing the consequences of all of our actions to us, to our doorstep. And
Yes, yes. Well
that
said.
is
He's
terrifying. Yeah.
if it's an allegory, and look, some people don't like allegories, and
Yeah.
it doesn't always work. But in The Day the Earth Stood Still, it's pretty clear that he's the representation of atomic destruction,
Yeah,
humans
for
destroying
sure.
themselves. So he's the villain a little bit, but it's like Jessica said, it's the human race that was the scary one.
Yeah. So he's just, yeah.
So
He's
you mentioned another one too, which was in the beginning he's scary, but of course he turns out to not be scary. So I tried to bump your choice on this one, which is the Iron Giant. Brad Bird's the Iron
Oh
Giant.
yeah. Well, I do love the Iron Giant, and that is, and it is very scary in the beginning, and then you realize, what the Iron Giant is, and then the movie, he actually everything around the Iron Giant, the same way as with Gort, becomes terrifying because
Right.
when we're faced with something scary, we as humans have a tendency to overreact, and that reaction becomes
Violence.
the true terror of the situation. And
Right,
so
right.
like, even though the Iron Giant, he was a very dangerous weapon, and does get activated, through violence. And so that there was moments when it was very scary because you were like, thought that he was gonna, you know, go nuclear and do his full mission there. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, the Iron Giant is not necessarily terrifying, but the whole idea of what we could do with our technology, you know, of war, our war technology is in both of those movies. They're very connected.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah,
that you have a really good point there. And I think that thematically, the movies are cousins,
they are cousins.
even down to the setting.
It's true. It's a setting similar, and the military
Yeah.
reaction is
Now, if you would
similar.
say that, it would seem to not be true. But if
Yeah,
you go through and look at it line by line, oh, okay, they're both sort of in the
yeah,
atomic hysteria. You got the government is involved. You've got the army involved. You
yeah.
got a couple of people corrupt.
And
So
just a small group of people trying to
trying to,
actually
yeah,
have a reasonable conversation.
some
Yeah,
good guys. So
yeah.
viewers, hey, if you haven't seen these two, The Day the Earth Stood Still and The Iron Giant, they're both highly recommended.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay, I saved a great one here for number 6. This is Ultron from the Age of Ultron. He's the robot villain, of course. Maybe not the scariest. I don't know. What do you think? Is he
Hmm.
scary, Jessica?
Well, he's hard for me to be scared of just because I watched the cartoons when I was a kid. So it's like, I mean, he is scary. Like if he, no, he's scary. Like if he was, it's not a horror movie scary. It's a action movie robot kind of
Right,
scary.
right, right.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, it's like it's. I'm not afraid of him showing up in my under my bed or anything like that
Yeah.
or in my house. But yeah, he's terrifying in that he's trying to destroy our planet
And I
and
thought he
he's
had two kind of scary parts where he's doing
yeah.
the Pinocchio quote.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Nursery rhymes attached to villains are always scary, right? It's a little bit of a trope. And I
Yeah.
thought it was kind of cool how his consciousness was stored on the
Oh,
internet, and
yes.
it kind of ties into our theme here tonight.
What is he's like? What does he say with the puppets? It's the what's
No
his line?
strings.
No
There's no
strings. Yeah,
strings.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he is scary. I just started talking about Transformers for some reason. I don't know why. Did you hear me do that?
And Transformers, hey, some of them are
I
moderately
don't
scary.
no, but I suddenly was like halfway through that. I'm like, wait a minute, it's not a transformer. This is from
Now I see what you mean. Yeah.
yeah. Well, now I called myself out, but
Well,
I
it's okay. It's okay.
yeah
The
no
main thing about Ultron, I thought that made him scary was he had
yeah
his, David Spader.
yeah, and he's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that he
yeah.
does a great job with that voice. I mean, he was scary in that. And who was was Jeeves? Who does he take over? He takes over
Jarvis.
the Jarvis, and
Yeah.
I didn't like that. That was scary. That component of them fighting each other, and that was sad.
Well, I think the viewers can yell at us in
Yeah.
the comments if they don't find that one too scary.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was scary enough. And once I realized it wasn't the Transformers in my crazy brain right now.
That's okay. They start to blend together. You talk about all these
Yeah.
robots, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So our number 5, let's launch right into it. Of course, I'm talking here about Megan, which this
Oh
is
yeah.
one that was a more recent one on our list, but it really captured the public attention. Why do you think that is, Jessica?
Well, first, Megan, well, this idea of getting a companion, someone to fill a void, a doll, um, is so appealing, and but it's intimate. It's giving, and so um and also the actress who played Megan and all the movements that she does are so like funny but also scary, and I think they did a really good balance of setting up this really psychologically terrifying situation where this young child is kind of going through this emotionally difficult time. Her aunt is a scientist and has created this artificial intelligent companion doll and brings one into the house, and they start connecting, and at first you're like, it's good for
Great.
her, you think it's
Yeah.
good for her, and then Megan becomes, it's the programming to be a protector, to be all focused on the child or your companion at all costs, and where the AI and the robot starts to experience that instruction more violently than expected. You know what I mean? To protect. So it, and I just think they did a really good job, and I think that the doll is just very iconic. The actress is very
Yeah,
iconic.
I was
Yeah,
going to
and
say
it's
there's a
like
great expression.
yeah,
It has kind of like these dead eyes that are looking
yeah.
at you. Yeah.
And then and there's just some really wonderful fun moments, and And also I think because you can watch it, it's scary, but you can watch it, like, with your kids, like, a certain age. Like, I could watch it with my, 11-year-old and my 13-year-old, and they really enjoyed it, and they got scared enough, but it was also funny enough that, so I think that helped with its popularity as well,
It's
but
also a little bit, I sometimes call this near sci-fi because it's
yeah.
sci-fi, but it's close enough to where it's more believable. Like you
Yes.
said earlier, there's something about, like if it would have been based on Siri, or Hey
Yeah.
Google, you suddenly would go, whoa, it would bring it right
I
home.
I mean, it is this interesting concept of you bringing something into your home to help you, to be part of your life, and then it gets too possessive of you. It gets too invasive. And then how do you get it out? And then sometimes it's your relationship with it that becomes invasive. That's, I mean, very realistic. Our iPhones are, it's probably our attachment to them that makes them more dangerous than their attachment to us. But
Correct, correct.
yeah,
And that's not too different from the movie Her. That was the
yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah. Did you like that movie?
I did like her. Yes. I
I
like all
would
of them
say
most of
that
the
one
time.
also could be
It could be
an
on the
entry,
list. Yeah.
right? Because I find, and of course, again, it was sandwiched in some different terms, but
Hmm.
to me, it's still an invasive AI story.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, and I just did an invasive AI story for Nightmare Theater, like a comic, and I based it on Argus, the many-eyed giant, who's a guardian in
Oh yeah,
Greek mythology.
yeah,
But
yeah,
like, yeah, it was just like the security system that takes it, one step too far, which we have
hmm.
a couple, yeah. And so like, and that intimacy, like in an AI, well, just the AI misinterpreting the intimacy is
Yeah.
what, yeah, what your intentions of something, like the programmer's intentions versus what, just like we have a possessive and obsessive human beings, they think they're taking care of someone, but they're doing it so violently that it's abusive, and I
Or
think
like
that
with pets, kind of.
with pets, yeah, and any of that stuff. Yeah, Megan's a lot of fun. Everyone should watch Megan. It's enjoyable. And it has a good message. And her too. I mean, I enjoyed Megan more, but I do like her.
Good pick again,
Yeah.
Jessica. I think the AI flavored choices they
Hmm.
make it a little scarier.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, because they are
So
trying to be human. They're
yeah.
trying. Yeah.
Now we're going to change it up here, right? This is
Yeah.
1991. Our number 4 is the T-1000. You remember
Hmm.
this guy? This
Oh
is,
yeah.
to refresh your memory, he's the guy that if you're shooting at him, he's made out of like malleable metal, like lava,
Hmm.
I guess, almost. Or like mercury is kind of almost what it was. Like if it was mercury, it was moving really slow.
And not only that, he was something we had never seen before because
Right.
because the guys who did those, that was when visual effects, that was the big
It was a
transfer
leap
from
forward.
it was a leap forward,
Yeah.
and this one company and this one guy and specifically was doing it. And it was like we were used to, like, puppets and animatronics and all this stuff, which is all great. And suddenly we're getting our minds blown with
Yeah.
this, yeah, with this character, and it changed cinema. I mean, that movie, it was that movie, it was The Abyss first, and then it was T-1000,
I
which I just
remember the
remember,
abyss too, and
yeah,
I'm pretty sure I know what you're referring to. In the abyss, it was a water creature,
it was the
right?
water
And
creature that
they went
comes
to
out,
look
yeah.
at it, and the water creature formed a reflection of the guy's face, or maybe
Yeah,
it was a girl.
no,
And then T-1000, he did it. There was a helicopter scene, and it was being piloted by a police officer. And
mm-hmm,
the T-1000 crashed into the helicopter or something, and he immediately started transforming into the police
yeah,
officer could see himself looking back at him. Yeah,
oh yeah,
he was a creepy.
oh, he's way up there.
Yeah,
I mean, he just was scary, and that was just like that. It was a nonstop action film. It was very good,
yeah.
and
I love the Terminator films. They get a
yes,
little bit of heat. Um, and of course, whenever they come up, I love to mention the lawsuit with Harlan Ellison, who
yeah.
turned out he had originally written that story.
Yes. Well, and
Yeah.
Harlan, yeah, I have some funny stories. Like I met my husband on because of T3, because he was working on it. My roommate was working on it. I went to the wrap party and the rest is history. But yeah, and so that's like an interesting, but he was that was when I first came out to LA and those years. And yeah, and I like T3 a lot. I mean, I
Yeah.
like all the Terminators,
Yeah. Now,
but
now you're
yeah.
talking about Rise of the Machines right there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I got to tell you, that one gets a lot of hate, but I love that movie.
Yeah. What do you get? What's to
Yeah,
hate?
yeah. I'm not sure. I always wonder about that, and I don't want to go
Yeah.
too far off topic, but it's a
Yeah.
little bit
We went
like,
off topic a little bit.
yeah, it's fun to
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they talk about like all the hate that movies get, and even like Star Wars is what comes immediately to mind.
Yeah.
Which I always look at them like, well, like I'm always predisposed to like it a little just because it's Star Wars, and I get that they're not all solid gold,
No, they're
but
not.
I never like, oh, this ruined my childhood. It's like, oh, it's another different take.
I mean, there's some Star Wars movies I don't want to rewatch, but I mostly will always give Star Wars a chance.
Yeah, it's already
Yeah.
you're halfway there just by it's
Yeah.
going to be produced
Yeah.
by generally people that love it. Like,
I am
are you
getting
a?
to. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask if you liked Rogue One.
I do. I love Rogue One.
Yeah, that's one of the best
Yeah.
ones, right?
And then the TV show that what is it? It's that leads up.
Mandalorian.
No, it's not Mandalorian, Andor.
Oh, that's really good. That's the
Because
spy one.
and that's the one connected to Rogue One, I think. Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
a lot of people
And I
didn't
like
like that one because it was kind of deep, and again, it was dense,
yeah,
right? But
yeah, yeah.
I liked that one.
Well, that I like dense, deep sci-fi, so I do prefer that usually. But yeah,
Hmm.
so it just depends. But no,
Well,
Andor,
I'm sorry for I steered us off topic. Go ahead. You had a
I
final point on Andor.
easily. Apparently, I can talk about all this sci-fi stuff, so I'm okay. We can steer off
Yeah, I was gonna say
topic.
you and I could make 10 lists without dropping a hat.
Probably that's true. That is true.
So I loved this next pick. This is our number 3.
Oh my god.
This is from Blade Runner. That's 1982. This is Roy Batty. Tell us a little bit about Roy.
Well, Roy's like one of the replicants. He's the combat model, right? And
Yeah,
he
that is
is,
a
yeah,
Nexus 6.
Nexus 6, yeah. And he's chasing after Harrison Ford's character through part of the movie, some of the movie. And um at first they are so scary. The whole concept is so scary. At some point he becomes very romantic and
He's
and
kind of epic.
sentimental. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
epic.
yeah.
He's like so he's terrifying and he's just like this amazing actor and
That's
just
Rutger
so
Hauer, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You're in charge of the names because I'm the worst with
Okay,
names.
yeah.
So I'm always like, I like that one actor.
Sure.
So yeah, and he just there's just something like a cool, like melancholy, sadness, poet, dangerous thing in this combat.
He has the greatest line in the movie, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, he does for sure. And I mean, I guess that movie's full of robots that are, um, and whether or not, that are like, are they robots or are they replicants? Or are they not replicants? And just the
Mhm.
whole world that has been created. And then you're all just kind of like the world that has been created, you're all just at its mercy now. And that's why it's so, I mean, I love Blade Runner. So
Yeah.
I love,
I did you watch Blade Runner 2049?
yep, adored it.
I'm about
Loved
halfway
20.
through it. I'm about halfway through it. It's on Hulu.
Oh, okay, got
It's
it.
funny. We were talking about movies tonight. As you can see, I'm behind on a lot of movies
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now.
Well,
I
that
did
one
see
I had
I
to go
did see
see.
Godzilla -1.
I haven't seen Godzilla -1, which I'm a huge creature fan, as you know, and
Yeah.
nobody else. My kids don't like it, and so I'm kind of just like, all right, I'll just go by
Gotcha.
myself.
I think you will like it. Let me know what you thought. There's even a black and white version.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, for real, for
I mean,
real.
that's
It's
awesome.
yeah, I forget what it's called. It had some. It's not
Yeah.
noir edition, but it's something like that. Okay, our number 2. Are you ready for this? As we move up the list, you notice they're getting a little scarier, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 2, Demon Seed.
Oh my god.
This is Julie Christie with Demon Seed. I'll just give the quick synopsis, then I want to hear your 2 cents. Essentially, in this one, she's a scientist and she's working on a cure for something. I remember that. She's using this computer. Well, the computer became self-aware, right?
Well,
And
her
fell in love with
husband's a
her. The husband.
scientist.
That's right. It
Yeah,
was the husband.
husband's a scientist. Unfortunately, it should have been her, but
Yeah. But the
Yeah.
crux of it is that there's not really an easy way to say this on the air. The robot kind of rapes her. The robot imprisons her, and it's like a triangular imprisonment device. And he takes some of her cells and like reconfigures the cells and impregnates her.
It's a very it's a very complicated process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's this other it's interesting because there's the house that the scientist and his wife and live in, and they're getting a divorce. He's gonna leave. And so because he's so rational, he's all reason based, and he has created this whole like home that is run by these nicer AIs like Alfred and I forget if it's Jason, it's this other character,
Right.
and it's just this one-armed thing. And then at work, it's like military level, and he has Proteus, who is the very all-seeing, very intelligent AI who ends up infiltrating his home AI unit through because they won't let him out. He wants to be free, and they won't let him out. They trap him in a box, and so then he gets into his house and then takes his wife hostage and decides he's
Yeah,
going to
that's right.
make himself a prodigy, because he wants to be immortal, and he knows
Right.
that, yeah.
Right. This is how I can live on, basically.
Yeah,
Something like that.
and he does very in a complicated way. I mean, he definitely rapes her, but it's not like it's more medical and
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely, I found it to be very interestingly done. Like, I liked this movie a lot.
Yeah.
It just, a lot of stuff was done
It's
off
not a
camera.
conventional horror movie. You don't
No.
realize till like halfway in more than halfway, just how scary this thing's going to go.
Yeah, you don't realize how horrible and he gets emotional. That's the difference. I find this AI and Demon Seed to get emotional and get angry more than other AI like that or other computer systems. And I used to think there was a Simpsons, like, the Treehouse of Horror.
Of course. Yeah. It's some of my favorites.
And I always thought the one where the system, like, takes over the Simpson Homer, like, it falls in love with Marge and takes over Homer's house. I always thought
It's
that was
based on the Demon Seed. Now that you
I
say that, you're right.
I thought it was Space Odyssey, but then I'm like,
Oh,
but I
yeah.
think it's Demon Seed.
Now that you say that, it sure sounds like it.
But I always thought it was Hale, but I'm like, it's not Hale. I think it's this one because it's so much darker. So I just, I mean, I think I'm gonna watch it. I just watched it because I couldn't remember if I'd watched it or not, and I was glad I did because I'm kind of in. It was also very philosophical. He was. I feel like Proteus was having like a crisis of everything, like existential
Right.
crisis, and he was taking it out on everybody.
Well, and
Yeah.
I hesitate to give the ending away, right? Because you don't want to
Oh
give
yeah.
spoilers. Maybe
No,
people haven't
it's
seen the
hard.
movies. But again, we are talking about 60 some years ago.
Yeah,
So
I
I do
think it's
think that the
fair.
statute of
Yeah.
limitations there. So the ending of it, of course, is potentially the most disturbing part because
Hmm.
there is actually a child that's born. And at first you think it's like this robot or something like this. And then the metal like peels away and there's like a clone or something under that. But
Yeah,
essentially it's this healthy child.
that has his voice.
Right.
That was creepy.
And he says,
And
I'm alive, right?
I know, and you're just like, no. And what's interesting
Ah.
is that couple had lost their child to leukemia.
Right. That's
And
what it was.
that's
And that
why,
it was the
yeah.
DNA that survived in the baby. Like in a way, it was
The,
I'm not even sure how to really phrase this. You can see why it's disturbing. So in a
it's
way,
disturbing.
they resurrected the dead.
And the woman is never ever on board 100% on it. Like the dad comes in at the end, like he finally seems to figure out his wife's in danger, like whatever. She's been going through this whole thing for like a month. I'm like, I don't know how I mean, he moved out, but it's kind of crazy. Like, and she never really stopped kind of fighting this process. And then what I found really fascinating and what I thought was well done in the movie is, in a way, her husband was very similar to Proteus. Like, they were very like similar mentalities, and the husband's like, we have to help he was like wanted to keep the experiment alive or whatever. And she's like, no, we have to kill it. And they had this whole argument. And yeah, she didn't win. She didn't win that argument. She didn't win. She tried.
Yeah.
But it was
Anybody
it.
who hasn't seen that movie, you got to
Yeah.
check this out because
Yeah. We
as
didn't even
crazy
ruin
as
it.
it sounds when we're describing it, it's actually crazier because the movie doesn't view that way. Like it seems
Yeah.
very kind of basic, right? And very
It's
staid. It's like I
basic.
say,
Yeah.
it's not almost till the end that you go, oh my God, what? That's a disturbing movie.
I mean, yeah, and you have to be into that kind of thing because, like, don't go watch it if you don't like watch robots and like
Right.
AI,
Yeah,
commentary
yeah,
on
right.
AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Admittedly, not for everybody.
no, but it's ahead of its time a bit. Exploring those concepts and what could happen if you let AI into your life like that. Yeah.
We'll tell you what, let's move right on to our number one.
Hmm.
This is 1979, the movie Alien. The
Yeah.
character is Ash, the headless robot scene.
Hmm.
We talked a little bit about tropes. That's used in basically every Alien movie too, where there's a part of the robot that's still talking somehow. That's,
Yeah.
it's the oldest special effect in the book, but in this first one, really effective. And of course,
Mhm.
we didn't know to expect it then.
No. And the thing about Ash that, God, I don't know. I love Aliens so much, and I love Ash so much too. It's just, he was both creepy and also, I don't know. I mean, because like in later movies, they bring him back, right? But as a different, what do they do in the like
Well, hold on.
Alien
There's Alien 1 is Ash. Alien 2
Ash
is Bishop.
Bishop?
He,
That's right,
yeah,
Bishop. And
yeah.
okay, yeah, and then
And then
so Ash, yeah.
Alien, oh, that's Prometheus. There's David.
Prometheus, yeah. So they
Yeah.
never, yeah. So they have like a bunch
Where I
of
was going
them.
with it though, they always have a scene where they
That
have to take the head and
head
talk
off.
to
You
the
got to
head
have the head
somehow.
off. I know. It's like, well, it was so interesting the whole time in that first movie because she's communicating with the home planet, on
Right.
the on the computer,
Mother.
and yeah, mother, and it's yeah, and then it was just like when at with the Ash betrayal, it was yeah, and she always had a distrust of him, she's like she always had a sixth sense about him, and yeah, so
I
I don't
thought that
know,
was a neat trick too with the
yeah,
white blood where
oh
he
yeah,
when they
he's
first
gurgling,
plug the head in, he like spits out all this white milk and
oh
his voice
God.
is he talks like he has a damaged voice box, which is a neat
I
touch.
I found that actually very creepy, just that
Yeah.
they would reanimate his head for his information, and in a way, I thought that made us kind of monstrous too, it was just like,
Man, in Prometheus, she put the head in a bag. Remember that? She's
"Oh my
carrying it around in like
god,"
a
she's just
duffel
like
bag, keeping it in there with her gym clothes.
she's like, "I like to have an alien I need to have a AI robot head with me at all times to jack into the matrix."
It kind of interesting, right? That
Yeah,
these are the robots that we find scary now, and they are
mhm,
all, not all, but many of them are loosely affiliated with AI. We definitely have
yeah.
uncovered a trend here. So I wonder what the next level of scary robots looks like.
I think a lot in a weird way, I think Demon Seed kind of hit on it where the next thing that's very scary is when for me is
Bio,
robots being able to combine like their code with our code and create like a new life form,
biomechanical.
a biomechanical
Yeah.
life form. Because I mean, I have a short story I wrote about that, like about like robots and motherhood are very interesting to me, and so I that's why I was so fascinated by Demon Seed. I was because I don't know if I'd actually seen it, and and there's like and Raised by Wolves I'd mentioned is a TV show, and they explore like robots being able to have
I got to
children.
check that one out. I haven't
Yeah,
seen that.
and I think that is to me is the next scary thing is when we start and even Creator at some level just came out.
Yeah.
They didn't explore no they did. They're exploring that combination of
Yeah.
our DNA with code and their DNA and becoming this new life form. And I think that is very terrifying. I do that in my series Plastic Girl, but in a different way, not with AI. That when we combine two species and two different life forms, and we it's like a pseudo extinction when you breed each of the other ones out. So like will we come together at some point and we're like robot humans, and then slowly humanity will fall to one side and
Right.
robots will be
It'd be the lesser
the
species, right?
lesser
Yeah.
whatever is the strongest,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so it would just be which one of those three things is the more able to adapt to whatever the planet is doing at that moment, and like that's terrifying.
Hmm.
So I think some shows are starting to explore it, but to me that's the next big fear for me, because if we survive the robots from trying to kill us, like we had the
Right.
T3, they're chasing us down, and a Matrix, it's like they're eating us. It's like, and all these other ones, they're becoming part of our lives in a way that's insidious, and then they want our lives, and they're taking it. And then, but once we become part of them, then it's like there's no monsters anymore. So then it's like, I don't know. I don't know.
Like, what does that
I just,
remind me of? I Am Legend, the
I
original
Am
I Am
Legend,
Legend.
right? Yeah, for sure. Like that's
Yeah.
like a, I was watching,
The blended humanity.
Yeah, well, putting them to yeah, the blended humanity, and that's interesting when they do that, like in vampires or zombies and or anything like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, for sure.
Well, so tell us, what are you working on next, Jessica?
Um, well, I God, right now, I just finished up the Mary Shelley School for Monsters Kickstarter. I'm finishing up the hardcover of that with Anna. We're doing the art. Um, I just completed my third book, and published the third book in the Plastic Girl trilogy. So now it's complete. It's done.
Nice.
And
Congratulations.
thank you. And gosh, I'm doing a TV pilot right now. So I'm working on that. And so I'm kind of focusing on that and the writing the third Mary Shelley, and then promoting Plastic Girl more because it kind of got on the got off to the, on the sideline, and it's an interesting trilogy that I had a lot of fun writing, so I'd like more people to read it. And I do really explore, like, when we come to the end um of the climate apocalypse, like, and our species finds a new species and we start interacting, and that whole concept of pseudo extinction, and like, what will happen, what will come out of the destruction of the planet. I mean, I think the planet will get reborn. Will there be a new species? Will it be us? Will we be involved in it? A lot of that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
yeah, so I'm doing
That sounds
doing
great.
that.
I love that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, as you know. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so mostly I'm focusing on trying to get the third Mary Shelley written so that by the time Anna's done with that art, we can start doing the art on that one. And then this TV pilot that I'm really excited about, but I can't talk about yet.
Can't say too much. Maybe, hey, we're
Yeah.
going to see you again on the novel writing show.
Oh,
Maybe
cool. Yeah.
maybe you can tell us a little more there.
Yeah. 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 So
Well,
that's
that's great. Congratulations on your recent success on the Kickstarter campaign. I'm a
yeah.
fan of your work. I want to say to the viewers, if you like these kind of things that we were talking about, you're probably going to like Jessica's work. I definitely recommend it. Please go over there right now and check it out. If you're not aware of where to find it, I'll put the links here. You'll be able to see them below us, and they'll be in the comments as well. So I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to hear our top 11 scariest robots. Jessica, I'm going to give you the last word. Tell us a little bit about where we can find you.
Okay. You can find me and my work at wickedtreepress.com. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook under Wicked Tree Press. I write a Substack called Monster of the Week, where I explore all different kinds of monsters, not robots, but monsters. You can subscribe there and hang out with me, and if you love monsters. And I think that's it. The next time you can see me in person is at the LA Times Festival of the Books. And then I will be going to the American Library Association conference in June, and then San Diego Comic-Con. So those are my next
Nice.
live events. Yep.
Yeah, you got a nice lineup there, Jessica. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
All right. To the viewers, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next Friday night. And really, thanks, Jessica, for coming on. It's always
Oh,
a pleasure to talk to you.
thanks for having me. I love coming on this show.
Yeah, these are the best topics,
Yeah.
man. So
Yeah.
we'll look forward to seeing everybody else on Friday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern on the Indie Comic Network. See you guys then. Good night.
Bye.